Welcome everyone to our webinar. Before we begin, Nathan, can you share the antitrust slide? Yes. This webinar is governed by the Linux Foundation Antitrust, which states that this webinar will be recorded. It will end on time, and it will be conducted according to the antitrust guidelines of the Linux Foundation. So I again like to welcome everyone. Worthy of user trust. That was the founding vision of the Open Voice Network. And the TrustMark Initiative was launched in March of this year, establishing a framework of training and tools to deliver on that vision. In today's webinar, we will share with you insights, validation, and evidence of our progress to date. The landscape surrounding our work may have changed, but our vision remains the same, worthy of user trust. So joining me today will be Ofer Hermoni of the Linux Foundation AI and Data Foundation, who will share insights and validations of the TrustMark Initiative. Valeria Barbero of Mother Tongue and co-leader of the Ethical Use Task Force will demo the self-assessment and maturity model tool. Emily Banzhaf of Aston Carter and the other co-leader of the Ethical Use Task Force will review the roadmap for the work ahead. So, lots to cover. If you have questions, feel free to use the Q&A in chat, and they will be addressed at the end. So let's get started. The next slide, please. On last week, November 1st, two core projects of the Open Voice Network became part of the Linux Foundation AI and Data Foundation. Ibrahim Haddad serves as executive director. This alignment provides a significantly larger open community of open source developers, participants, and sponsors. It will also offer the Open Voice Network efforts new and expanded synergies with current LF, AI, and Data Foundation projects in numerous areas of open source artificial intelligence research and development, including trusted and responsible AI, natural language processing, and generative AI. As you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, it is the evidence of a larger global organization of 63 enterprise projects, 95,000 developers, 23,000 unique contributors, 2 million lines of code, evidence of more connections, larger opportunity for impact. The next slide, please. So as I mentioned, a larger opportunity for impact of the two projects that have moved from the Open Voice Network to the LF AI and Data Foundation. Although there may be changes again in the landscape, there's no changes are expected to the project's mission, vision, roadmaps, or objectives. The two initiatives, the interoperability initiative of the Open Voice Network and the TrustMark initiative of the Open Voice Network. Dr. Debbie Dahl will continue to lead the interoperability project, and I will continue to lead the TrustMark Initiative project. Again, new names, the same mission. Next slide, please. And just to show you, as I mentioned, the larger opportunity for impact, there's also greater opportunity for synergies. The few synergies I will mention and call out, there's that within the LF AI and Data Foundation, there is the Adversarial Robustness Toolkit. Then there are also two incubating projects, the AI Explainability 360 and the AI Fairness 360 project. And most importantly, and why Ofer Hermoni is with us today, is the Generative AI Commons project. And in particular, Ofer leads the Generative AI Commons Education and Outreach workstream. So next slide, please. So the work that we're doing is largely based on our ethical principles. You've seen these before: privacy, transparency, accountability, inclusivity, sustainability, and compliance. The way that we will deliver on these ethical principles is through four strategic pillars. The pillars are endorsement, education, intention, and evidence. Endorsement, getting people and organizations to support our work and endorse the ethical principles. And that's demonstrated through public display of on our website of their commitment to our ethical principles. Education, we launched in August this year our first training course, Ethical Principles of Conversational AI. That course was launched on the edX platform in collaboration with Linux Foundation. We are envisioning other education courses, public workshops, so those will be delivered through the strategic pillar of education. Intention, that's the self-assessment. Those are tools provided to organizations to assess where they are on their maturity continuum. And you'll see more about that later in a webinar. Valeria will be demonstrating that tool. And the other is evidence, the technical tools, technical specification for privacy, voice synthesis in the new interoperability world. So with that, Nathan, if you could stop sharing. So the pillars kind of was set the context of my conversation with Ofer. So I would like to welcome Ofer, and by way of introduction, he is Dr. Ofer Hermoni. He's a seasoned entrepreneur whose innovative spirit led to the creation of two pioneering startups, one in the patent realm and the other in the forefront of privacy technology. He's a recognized authority in artificial intelligence, and he played a key role in co-founding the Linux Foundation AI and Data Division. Presently, he's at the helm of the Generative AI Commons Education and Outreach Group, which would be fostering awareness and understanding of open source generative AI technologies. He has a rich academic background, culminating in a PhD in computer science, and has an extensive portfolio of over 60 granted patents across various fields, including artificial intelligence, communications, networks, privacy, and information security, and blockchain. So welcome, Ofer. Thank you for joining us today. And as a reminder to those of you who are here in the audience, please feel free to put your questions in chat and Q&A, and we will address them in the end. So, Ofer, I gave the bio. So what would you like to share? Anything in additional that you would like to share about your background and your role at LF AI and Data?
Thank you for having me here. Very happy to support this initiative, and we are working together for quite some time, and I find it very important and interesting. Maybe a little bit more about our journey at Linux Foundation. So 6 years ago, we started work, a few companies started to collaborate on an initiative in a machine learning model marketplace, something like Hugging Face, but not as successful. And we looked for a home for our initiative, an open source home. And we realized that there is no umbrella organization that takes open source AI and promote it. So we decided to start or to found Linux Foundation AI. Officially, we founded it in March 18, if I remember correctly. And I served as the first elected chair of the Technical Advisory Committee and basically laid the foundations of all the activities that we are still doing. Along the years, I mostly contributed in the Trusted AI Committee. And now, as you mentioned, leading the Education and Outreach Committee as part of the Gen AI Commons.
So, thank you. You mentioned Trusted AI community. So just want to mention that the TrustMark Initiative of the Open Voice Network fits under the umbrella of the Trusted AI community. Could you describe more about what does that mean?
So basically, as part of the Linux Foundation, we have projects and we have committees. TrustMark joined as a project, but is completely aligned with what we are doing for the past 5 years, the Trusted AI Committee. We mainly, if I'm going back to your strategic pillars, we mainly focused on the evidence. We mainly focused on creating our principles and promoting trusted, responsible use of AI, and actually bringing in the other pillars that you have, the intention and endorsement, is a great complementary efforts to what we have done so far, and we're really excited about this.
So with that, so the Trusted AI community has been around for how long has that been?
Probably 5 years.
Okay.
It was a slow start, I would say. Initially, we had a group of 15, 20 people contributing, but it was not easy to manage the meetings, to attract people to join. And basically, in the past year, with Gen AI coming into to us and become so popular, the Trusted AI committee became very popular as well, and companies are coming, not companies and projects are coming for our advice. And I think that the TrustMark like pillars and for example, the self-assessment tool would be a great addition to what we are doing and how we can contribute to the community.
And then now you have a new role that you're overseeing. You're leading the helm of the Generative AI Commons Education and Outreach work stream. So I attended the meeting this morning, and you're at the beginning of defining, your target audience, your deliverables, your vision. What would you like to share? Where you are and where do you see this going?
So basically, as an organization, LFAI, Linux Foundation AI and Data, we decided to initiate a work stream or initiative around Gen AI. It's part of what we are doing, but we didn't have a specific initiative. And we started the Gen AI Commons a couple of months ago. And we decided to break down the activities into 4 work streams. The work stream that I lead is the education and outreach. And basically, if we discuss the 4 pillars, 3 of them are pretty relevant and associated with the Trusted AI committee. The 4th one, or the second one in your order, is the education. And this is where we are coming into the picture. We basically had 2 meetings for this work stream. An hour ago, we finished the second one, and we tried to decide to agree on the audience, on the goals, and basically we see the open source developer community as a very important audience for us. in order to promote the use of open source, to promote the understanding, the importance of open source in the Gen AI ecosystem. And also we see the education around trusted AI, around responsible AI, very important, both for the developers, but also to the larger public and other audiences, like, for example, regulatory bodies and so forth. Yeah, we defined, just today, we defined our goals, and basically, as I mentioned, to promote the use of open source Gen AI, and also to educate the larger public about the technology, because I assume many of us, or all of us on this webinar, know about it, but there are so many people that are not there yet, and they don't understand the potential as well as the risks.
So it sounds like we're still staying true to Linux Foundation in advancing the use of open source, but specifically in this case for generative AI. Yes. So it was interesting that one of the participants in the meeting today kind of reflected back of where we are at this juncture with generative AI, was where, with Linux and trying to get adoption for open source operating system. It's similar in terms of trust, getting people to a trust something that's non-proprietary, that's open source. So the similarities of where this point in time, reflecting back to the past is it's probably very true in a lot of aspects.
Yeah, very true in a lot of aspects, but I do think that it's a bit different. The Gen AI technology is a bit different than what we had before, but still same arguments.
Yes, same argument. So the intersection, so you've mentioned with the outreach and the education and the goals of the generative AI commons in particular. So with the TrustMark Initiative, there does seem like a natural synergy, engagement or intersection between our work, because you say trust is so important to the adoption. Yes. And within the industry for developers and users of the technology. What is that? How does that intersection look to you?
So basically, I'm so happy to have this project with us, because we already have some deliverables. We already have a first course in LFX, right? Or edX, sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
So we have a first course that TrustMark community created, and you're creating another one. Mm-hmm. And basically, we can use or leverage your audience as well to reach out to more and more people that we want to talk to.
Yeah, very good. So you when we launched, I mentioned at the beginning that when we launched the TrustMark Initiative, John Stein was instrumental in the launch and success of the TrustMark Initiative up to this point, and we've been most appreciative of his support. I do want to also acknowledge, here publicly, your advocacy work within LFAI and data for the continuation of this initiative. So thank you for that. But could you share why you think, how you view our work, and why is our work important to the voice industry in particular? As we talked, that was one of the things, and I would just want to, if you could elaborate on why is our work important to the voice industry?
Yes, first of all, I would like to thank John as well. We work together to promote it with Linux Foundation. And as always, promoting something with the communities is a lot of people work, and find the right people to advocate this initiative. In terms of why I find this important? I find it's important because I believe that there is a huge opportunity here, but as well as risk that we need to take into account. We already see some deep fake voice scams that we need to, I don't know if we can eliminate them, but we need to try to reduce them as much as we can as a community. But on the other hand, there are so many opportunities for the society, especially for people that that blind or things like that. And I'm sure that Oita, you can share more about the opportunities and the use cases that you're working on.
Yeah, it's the use cases, they're broad, as you say. There's the synthetic voice, and there's, as we share other industry focus areas that we'll be elaborating on, health and wellness, of course, and vulnerable populations. And just, if you think about it, for each of the ethical principles, you can focus on like inclusivity, that naturally the focus there on vulnerable populations. Lots of discussions now about what's the impact of technology, impact of AI, conversational AI specifically on youth, people who consumer use of the technology is just this very broad. And so as you focus and work within the developer and user community of generative AI, and we're focused on conversational AI and how that, that engagement, that interaction, especially with focus on voice, we do have the opportunity to really advance the work and be, jointly LFAI and data thought leaders in the space, and help advocate for trusted use, responsible use of the technology.
Yes.
Yeah. So with that, one of the things that we talk about, accountability, right? So if we look at the landscape moving forward, the need for accountability. I read an article that earlier in 2023 that you wrote, and in it you said that the time for accountability is now. That was what you defined as the theme for 2023. So if you were going to project into 2024, looking at where we are since that was published, we've seen the signing of two important global efforts. The EU AI Act that was passed by the European Parliament on June 14th, and then currently the most recent effort, which was the issuance of an executive order by President Joe Biden on safe, secure, and trustworthy AI. So these two actions are already addressing the accountability, that was spoken of earlier this year, and is very promising. And we look forward to them becoming a reality. So looking forward to 2024, what's the theme? What are the opportunities and the challenges?
So I think that we would like to see more and more regulation coming, and more we would like to see some harmonization, right? Because if we will have different regulations and different focuses on regulation in different areas in the world, it will be pretty hard for the companies to comply with the regulation, and for even the open source community to find the right or build the right solutions. So I think that the theme should be harmonization, and we saw last week or 2 weeks ago the UK event when many of the world leaders joined to discuss this. On the opportunity side, so first of all, the first opportunity is again global collaboration and harmonization around the regulation. And I think that also education is an important opportunity, because if we educate the public and educate our friends, family, kids. I have a 16-year-old son. He's going to college in 2 years. What should I tell him to do? Because this technology has the potential to change everything. Yeah. I'm old enough to kind of continue the same route, but he wants to be a software developer. Should he go to take English as a major or software development? Because maybe all the developers will be prompt engineers. I'm a little bit exaggerating, but this is something that that is important, and this is why I took kind of a selfish role to lead the education and outreach, because I believe that with more knowledge, people will be able to take smarter decisions about the technology and their lives. On the challenges side, I think that it's pretty hard for regulatory bodies to keep up with the advancements in the technology. Every week, every day, we see new announcements, new ideas coming, and it's pretty challenging. Also, a huge discussion around the regulation of open source. This is also something that we need to think about, because on the one hand, we want to promote open source, we want to promote openness. But on the other end, there are some risks in the technology, right? And we all agree about that. So this is another thing. I started on the opportunities. I said the harmonization and global collaboration. This is a huge challenge. This is not something that can be done easily in at least in this world.
Well, thank you. I have sons. Yeah, I have twin sons, and they are software developers as well. And so I just encouraging them to, as technology embeds, is to remain aware, right? Remain and just in general the trusted and responsible use of technology. So a big part too of our work and get to hear in terms of the generative AI commons is how do we promote that next generation, right, of software developers. And yes, of course, there always need to be expanding need for other career or other disciplines, as you mentioned, English, as you mentioned, ethics, legal experts, policymakers, all of, the opportunities are broad in helping, the next generation understand how to address the challenges, how to address the opportunities that we see coming forth. So, Ofer, thank you for your time. And if you look in chat and Q&A, there's lots of questions queued up for you. So when we bring you back on at the end to address them, we look forward to hearing your responses to those questions.
Yeah,
so,
of course.
Again.
Thank you.
So let me bring on the two co-leaders of the Ethical Use Task Force to share how the TrustMark Initiative will continue to impact the conversational AI community. As it has been mentioned, and we'll make sure we put a link in chat about the education course that we have launched, and we'd love for all of you to take it and share it with your community. Welcome, Valeria. Valeria is Global Client Lead for Mother Tongue, where she leads projects on conversational AI content creation and management, as well as projects on content management for generative AI tools. She is co-moderator of the Ethical Use Task Force and has been since 2020, where she has been focused on researching and operationalizing the principles for the ethical guidelines and creating the self-assessment tool, which is part of the TrustMark Initiative. So Emily is a content designer, conversational user interface designer and a professional violinist. She is also she's the co-leader of the Ethical Use Task Force, writing the ethical standards and guidelines for conversational AI experiences. And she was one of the co-authored the Ethical Principles for edX course, and so we want to welcome them. And so the next things that you will see is Valeria will demo the tool, and then Emily will follow with sharing what the rest of the roadmap is into 2024. So, Valeria.
Thank you. I'll start sharing my screen. Well, first of all, thank you everybody for being here. And thank you for your interest in trustworthy AI and in the TrustMark Initiative. So we are actually launching the self-assessment tool today. For those of you who are not too familiar with how this came about, is essentially is our response to creating a tool, a framework that is thought and designed to help you navigate the more practical part of setting up a program to enhance awareness of ethical issues that is that covers your entire organization. And it's particularly focused on voice and conversational AI, but it addresses a lot of issues that are common to AI technologies. Our main goal is educational, and we want to disseminate quality information on this topic. So the self-assessment tool is not meant to be used as a standalone product, but it is part and parcel of the TrustMark Initiative. And that includes the conversational AI ethical guidelines and the matching course. So ideally, we would like everybody in this industry to be familiar with the ethical guidelines, and then to have taken the course and use the self-assessment to evaluate how mature the ethical programs that they have in their organizations are, and how these programs can, be improved, how they can be made more more useful, and all of that. So the use of AI technology is really pervasive to many organizations in all verticals and roles. So it is advisable that everyone in all organizations gets familiar with ethical issues, ethical standards, and measures to ensure a safe, sustainable, and trustworthy use of AI products and services. So to this end, I hope you can see my screen just fine. Just one second. Okay, so in the self-assessment, as you can see, this is the first page. You can start a new self-assessment, and you can create a new one that, let's call it webinar. You create it. What this allows you to do is that you can take this assessment multiple times at different times. So you can basically follow how your organization is improving and where, and you can track it in time. So it opens up with a snapshot of what, of the principles that we have selected and we endorse as an organization. And there is just a very brief description, and then there are questions pertinent to each of these principles. And you essentially answer these questions. There's a scoring mechanism running in the background, and at the end, you get a score. So let's get started, for example, with privacy. You get questions like, has your organization created, communicated, and published a general privacy policy? You say yes, you submit it. What is your organization's default approach for user privacy protection? Is it opt-out or opt-in? These are the two most common ones. And if, for example, you're not really sure what the difference is, what difference does it make, you can go to this pop-up and you get an idea of what the opt-in policy guidelines are, what the opt-out are, and you can answer better. But if you don't have that, it's also a way for you to think about, what is my next step? I don't have that, or I have the opt-out, but actually I would prefer to be more aligned with the guidelines, and I can change to have an opt-in policy, right? So that is another way. Or does your organization respect the right to withdraw consent, the right to be forgotten? If you're not familiar with that, you can get information here. You can then do further research and make sure that you are aligned with what the industry is endorsing, but also you can think through what is it that you want for your organization. Obviously, if you're here at this point, you have an interest in setting up an ethical program that covers, all your organization. So this can give you an idea of what the steps are, what kind of policies you have to set up, what kind of roles you have to decide within your organization, and so on and so forth. So once you have done that, let's see this continue. Later, when you reach the very end of all the principles, what you get is something like this. So basically what this tells you is how well you're doing in all the different principles, and it can give you some suggestions on where to start, what else. Like here, the transparency, it didn't get a very good result, and neither did privacy. So what you can do, you can take these results, you can go back to review the principles, review the guidelines and the course, and get an idea there. What else can you do? What can you add to your company's policies? What kind of roles, what kind of processes you can set up so that you can cover more ground, you can be more aligned, and you can make sure that your AI products and services are fully aligned with the ethical principles. I think I'll pass it on to Emily at this point, and then we can discuss more questions or anything that you have.
Thank you so much, Valeria. This is also exciting. So Nathan, if we can go to the next slide in the deck, I'll go into a little bit more detail about the roadmap and our plans coming up. So the roadmap we've created is based on the pillars that Oita talked about earlier: endorsement, education, intention, and evidence. So in terms of what that means for the work that we have on this roadmap, I wanted to highlight a few of our major milestones. So the first one is the release of the ethical self-assessment tool that we just saw demonstrated, which is scheduled to be released to a broader audience this month. And an exciting addition to that is we're localizing the self-assessment tool for a global audience. And we're planning on releasing the localized versions in February. We also have an update to the ethical principles for conversational AI ethics course and an outline for a second TrustMark training course planned for next month, with the second course scheduled to be released in March of 2024. And the last two things I wanted to highlight are the collaboration with the interoperability group on a case study that's coming out in January, and version 3.0 of our ethical guidelines document that's scheduled to be published in February. So moving on to the next slide. In order to accomplish all of this work, we're organizing the group into multiple work streams so that we can utilize everyone's strengths and so that everyone has a chance to participate. The first work stream is the self-assessment tools and evaluation, which is what you just saw. The second is education and training, which includes contributing to workshops, training, and our educational courses and other published documents. The research work stream is focused on staying on top of the latest news and keeping up to date with all the newest AI laws and regulations. And it can also include research for the training courses and other educational materials that we're going to publish. We also have a workstream focused on more technical frameworks and standards. And moving forward, we're also putting more of a focus on different verticals such as education and ed tech, health and wellness, media and entertainment, and consumer education. So for these last two work streams, we'll be integrating the work of the prior OVON health and wellness community, education community, and the synthetic voice study group. And we especially welcome anyone involved in these groups, communities, and industries to engage with us. The technical frameworks and standards will merge in the work of the privacy and security work group as well. Next slide, please. So very quickly, going back to the training course, we wanted to share some exciting statistics from the edX course that was released on August 23rd of this year. So as of yesterday, we have had 349 people enroll in the course. And I think the coolest statistic is that they're from 61 different countries. So we're very encouraged by these and by the tangible impact of the work this is having for people all over the world. And we're also really excited about the impact the rest of the work on the roadmap will have as well. Next slide, please. So with that being said, we want to invite you to join the Open Voice Network and help us by joining our work streams, taking our training course, endorsing our ethical principles on our website, and by giving us feedback. We would love any feedback you have on the course, our papers, the self-assessment tool when it's released, and anything else that will help us make the work that we're doing more valuable for you and your organization. So in terms of participation, anyone is welcome to participate, and you can join whatever work stream you feel best fits your interest and your level of commitment. So please contact Oita if you're interested in joining or if you have any other questions. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll hand it back to Oita.
So thank you, Valeria and Emily, for showing the work that we have underway, the self-assessment tool maturity model, their roadmap into 2024. As you can see, continuing to have an impact at what our goals and vision and mission there. And then in terms of the training course, the stats that you see there are really making an impact in educating the public and or those who have enrolled in the course in understanding what the ethical considerations are for conversational AI. So I'm glad we have everyone on the screen. So I don't want to keep yapping away. Well, let's take some questions. Let's see what we have here. I think there were a couple of questions that Ofer has already addressed. So what about question, Ofer, this for you. How would you define the objectives, key deliverables of Trusted AI Committee for 2024 and 2025?
Actually, thank you for the question. It's an interesting question because when we last visited our goals or our objectives, it was a few years ago. And we just realized the past few weeks that we need to revisit it. Our next community meeting will be focused specifically on that, to understand what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, and define again our goals and objectives. So I don't know exactly what will be the outcome, but I invite you to join us. It's an open source community, so the Trusted AI committee is open to everyone, and I encourage you to join us and contribute. But in general, based on what we have done so far, I assume that the promotion of trusted and responsible AI would be promoting it within the industry and promoting it within the open source community and specifically the open source projects that are running as part of Linux Foundation AI.
All right, very good. So we did answer that one question for the self-assessment tool. Will it be available on the website? Yes, it will be available on the website. There's a link already, a placeholder link. But with the recent change in the organization, we will need to make sure that we go through and update the branding and make sure it reflects LFAI and data, any new branding. So stay tuned for that. It is ready to go, but we just need to make sure that that we incorporate any of that. In the meantime, we will release it to friends and family who want to kick the tires on it, but know that this is something that we need to, before it is publicly launched, we want to make sure that the branding and logos and trademarks and everything is correct with the organizational change. What else we have here? How do you articulate the importance of open source in the AI ecosystem? That is for you, Ofer, from Janice.
Yes. So thank you for the question. I think that we can discuss the importance of open source in general, and then go a little bit into the details of AI. But open source brings innovation or promotes innovation, transparency, accessibility to the technology, security, and maybe is important also in setting the standards of whatever the project is about. And specifically in generative AI, I would claim that it's also important in terms of democratizing the technology. There is a concentration of power currently, mostly goes into OpenAI and some others, and that's it. And I think it's not very healthy, and we need open source to be part of the ecosystem and take a larger part of the technology. And also, I think it's very important in terms of promoting ethical and non-biased use of AI. And we have, as an open source community, we have an important role here to make sure that we eliminate or reduce as much as we can the bias and promote ethical use of the technology.
So thank you for that response, and I know that is relative to the work of the TrustMark Initiative, and I just have this question as you talked about proprietary use, and that really is aligned with the work of the interoperability initiative as well. I know there are a few people from the interoperability initiative here on here as well. Do you see that there is an intersection in the adoption that open source generative AI will help enable with the interoperability work that they potentially, do you see an intersection there with the interoperability initiative as well?
Yeah, I think that this is part of it. I mentioned earlier the accessibility, the standard setting. It's kind of part of it is interoperability between different tools, between different technologies. So I see a lot of synergy with the interoperability effort, and I hope that a lot of it will be, or at least part of it will be, based on open source solutions on top of the guidelines provided in the interoperability project.
All right, very good. And the last question, and then we'll need to wrap up, is there was a question about re-release of the class. Yes, we do. That was on the roadmap for a refresh of the current ethical principles edX course. We will do a refresh of that by the end of the year. So that is on the roadmap for so yeah, we look forward to that as well. any final thoughts, comments? Or not, I will thank our panelists, Ofer, especially joining us, taking time from your schedule to do that. Valeria and Emily for your leadership of the Ethical Use Task Force and the work that you're doing, and all of those who are part of the TrustMark Initiative and the broader community. We really do appreciate your support of the work that of what we've accomplished since March, and really could not have done it without you and your support. So thank you all for being here today, and we will see you next time. So thank you so much.
Thank you.